I don't think of this as a horror story because of how short it was. The two important people in the story are myself and the Dungeon Master. We were playing in a middle school club, and I played my tiefling necromancer, who I thought of as asexual. I didn't tell anyone about this, though. They were a woman, identified as she, her. This will be important later. The D&D campaign took place in a school-based setting. So my character's walking in the school halls and had an encounter with another student that I think the DM tried to make oddly sexualized. My character then proceeded to get knocked out. When she woke up, she was tied to a bed with this student. I think she had little clothes on at this point. I then had her respond in a way I thought was reasonable. She broke the bonds and proceeded to punch the other student in the face. Look, that's the edge runner way. When backed into a corner, draw the eye. It's at this point, I think he describes the other student as also being apparently tied to the bed. Then he reveals there are a bunch of other students around, they're all girls, and says, "It was a prank by the girls of the school." Man, my random student assault plotline is just really not landing with this player. I really thought this would be a more enjoyable experience for them, but they seem to be kind of upset for some reason.
It's, I think, a better idea than anything you've come up with. You know, I think it's all a prank. A prank? Yeah, all of this was just a joke by the student body to welcome you to the school. This traumatizing, terrible plotline for my character that you forced was just for what? For yucks? You know, we can just get back to the game, right? You still want to play, you know? I mean, it's just for fun. Didn't do anything wrong.
My character gathered up her clothes. I think she flipped them off and then just left the room. You know, prank scenes are fun. Think of how many views those YouTube prank videos get. But then, think about how awful some of those YouTube prank videos are and realize that it might not be worth pissing off your whole D&D group for a quote-unquote prank. You know? This is the goofy tale of how my Dungeon Master got me to stare at a black screen for 4 hours during a session of Dungeons & Dragons. Not really a scary horror story like some of them on the subreddit, more like a Goosebumps novel. Hey, when I was a small child, those books were terrifying. Also, maybe when I was a less small child too, but we're not gonna talk about that. This happened during the second half of 2020, so the details might be a little fuzzy. Hope you find the story as funny as I do, though. For context, I was very bored during the pandemic and decided to get into my third weekly Dungeons & Dragons game. The Dungeon Master, a friend of mine from a previous game, had talked to me about potentially running a game soon, and I expressed my interest. It was hosted on Roll20, given that we were in the middle of the lockdown at the time. The game would run the fairly standard Lost Mines of Phandelver module with no changes to the story and a single homebrew rule. This rule would unknowingly be what spelled my doom so many sessions later. The rule was the integration of the lingering injuries table. If you're unaware, lingering injuries is an optional rule in the Dungeon Master's Guide that lists possible permanent injuries that characters might sustain from certain circumstances. Our Dungeon Master would ask us to roll for an injury every time we hit 0 hit points, probably to increase the difficulty of the game.
You know, I'm actually working on my own lingering injuries table. I'm really looking forward to showing my players. I've already shown them some parts of it, and they seem really excited. I mean, they're practically bashing in the door, just saying like, "Oh my god, Crispy, we are so excited for our characters to be punished more in battle. It's gonna be so much fun." I mean, really, I cannot be more grateful for their enthusiasm and their love for the challenge I bring in my camp.
The severity of these injuries is pretty varied, with the range being from dismemberment to cosmetic scarring. None of the players objected to this rule as far as I can remember, but we did find it a bit strange. Our party was fairly well distributed, with a cleric, paladin, sorcerer, and monk, with me playing the monk. It would be this monk that suffered throughout our game. The first session was pretty standard. We encountered the main hook, fought a goblin ambush, and went to rescue the main NPC. What was not so standard was my awful luck. I could not roll well at all for anything, and all the enemies rolled spectacularly against me. In the first session, I was the only character to go down while fighting a goblin ambush, and I was the first one to roll on the injury table. So nat 1, I lost an eye immediately, meaning I had disadvantage on range attacks and perception checks. Kinda sucked, not gonna lie, but I can handle it. Why would you say something like that? The second session was uneventful. Some scrapes and scratches for my comrades, but no debilitating injuries. The third session was when my bad luck reared its ugly head once again. We fought some red brand guys when entering a Phandalin. In this fight, I would be downed for the second and third time, so 2 more injury rolls. The second injury roll was okay, nothing a little healing won't fix. On the third roll, I rolled a 3, so my monk is now missing a foot, halving my speed and causing me to fall prone after taking the dash action. Not the best for the highly mobile monk class, but hey, maybe I can get a cool prosthetic. When the dude in Fallout got his leg shot off, I don't think the prosthetic was what was on his mind. I would, in fact, get a prosthetic, though I'd hardly say it was cool. We visited the carpenter in the 4th session. My monk would get outfitted with a carved wooden leg from the table, restoring my speed, but not the falling prone thing. At this point, I was having thoughts about retiring or killing this character and getting someone with all the debuffs. Little did I know how much worse it would get. We decided to drive out the red brands from this town, so for the next 3 sessions, we would be slowly progressing through their hideout in an effort to eliminate their boss. About halfway through, we would find some townsfolk being held prisoner deep in the hideout, and a fight would break out while we tried to free them. I would be downed several times in this fight, almost to the point of it being comical, but it was the last 2 injury rolls that would really matter. My monk would roll a 2 and a 1 on the injury table, losing a hand and his remaining eye, meaning he was now blind and could only hold a single object at a time. Bro, what did you do to deserve this kind of luck?
I need to know so I don't do it, my god. Deamus, what's on our agenda today? You know, as all-powerful gods and stuff. Oh yes, hello Patrolicus. You know, as gods, we do have a sacred duty to uphold the good of mortal kind, and I was thinking that for today, we should spend all of our power cursing this one specific guy with horrible luck. You know, that's a really great idea. This guy definitely deserves all of our wrath, all of our unholy bad luck. Hey, I just thought I'd make you aware there's a famine going on right now, since you're like all-powerful gods and stuff. Can you like do something about that? Disgusting.
This is when I really decided that this character would act so recklessly that there was no way he wouldn't die, and I would finally be able to play something that didn't get a leg hacked off every time we fought. Or, other idea, this is your monk's villain arc, and they're going to become the next Darth Vader or Atom Smasher. I mean, those guys have lost tons of limbs, and look at them, they're terrifying. Okay, maybe Vader more than Atom Smasher, but still. During the days before the game, the Dungeon Master announced that he would figure out how the vision controls for our character on Roll20 worked, fixing some issues we had early on. And I suppose while he was at it, he decided to turn my character's vision off entirely. So for the next session, I just had a surreal experience. I sat at my computer, staring into a pitch black screen for 4 hours. I sat in voice call on Discord with a blank screen where the Roll20 map should be in front of me. Needless to say, I was super checked out for the session and struggled to just hold my laughter in. When this session ended, I asked him why he decided to turn my vision off, to which he responded with, "I wanted it to be more immersive." After he said that, I told him that I was bored staring at a black screen, to which he relented and restored my sight on the Roll20 board for the next session. TLDR, my party decides to play with the injuries table, my monk loses both eyes, so my dungeon master decides that I should be blind too. You know, for immersion. I love immersion. Immersion is all well and good. For immersive purposes, I make sure that my players are actually blinded when they are blinded. However, I never permanently blind my players because, good God, yeah, that would be boring. Now, earlier in this video, I said I was considering using a lingering injury table, and that's true. I am, but not a permanent injury table. Having injuries be this extreme might be fun, but I'm willing to bet that most people don't want their characters crippled to this degree. I mean, seriously, losing his hand is Jaime Lannister's whole arc in Game of Thrones. It's a major character moment. Here, it's just kind of lackadaisically added in. It's kind of like with character death. You know, you want it to be a bit more, I don't know, impactful, at least in narrative-heavy games. This just doesn't seem fun. Even as a DM who loves tough stuff, this isn't really encouraging me to get on that lingering injury table project. Not technically a horror story, but I'm looking for advice from a D&D community that I know none of my players are in. I've been running this game, it was the first one I ever created, about 8 months ago, for a group of my online friends. It's the only game that all but one of them are in, and it was their first game as well. There's been quite a few problems in my opinion, but I don't know if I'm overreacting. We have players in Japan, but most of us are in America, so we start at 10 p.m. in order for everyone to be able to play, which is right after I get back from work and classes. Typically, sessions go to about 1 a.m. my time. This isn't much of a problem, but I wanted to give context for why some of these situations got so out of hand. I'm just so tired when we play. God, you need to see my scheduling process.
Okay, so the Australians are 18 hours ahead of us, so that means that in order for us to play on optimal time, we probably need to start at like 5 p.m. because one of us is also in Eastern Standard Time US, which also means that we can't play too late. Otherwise, that guy's going to be staying up too late for the game, so we don't want that. So, yeah, 5 p.m., probably a Monday will be good. Is that good with everyone?
Yep.
Yep.
Wait, that's a Tuesday for me. I'm not available all day, sorry.
Wait, I mean, I'm sure we could figure something out.
One of my players shows up about an hour late to each session, and I know he's online because I see him playing Minecraft or League of Legends or God of War in another server we're in together. Sometimes he plays during sessions, but I've gotten after him for that. I've also caught him talking in this other server about how bored he is during sessions. He also refused to choose a subclass because I didn't have the one he wanted. I eventually just assigned him one, which he doesn't use. My justification is that if he wants it, he can buy... Wait... Oh, you're using D&D Beyond. Dude, we always just copy paste stuff from like the wiki onto our PDF sheets and call it a day. Isn't that what everyone does? But then again, this guy is one lazy bitch. My next player is a good dungeon master and friend to me. We can even co-DM a 20-person game together, but his character is Baby's first edgelord. I think he has a fun time, so it's probably one of his only player characters when he's hosting so many games, but it's hard to run a story-based game with the murder hoboing and the insistence on sitting in the dark tavern corner. He also has a tendency to last-minute cancel. Combined with the other player who doesn't show up so often, I just end up doing so much prep work for nothing, as the other two don't want to play with just half the party. Then we have the other two, who generally have the same problem of character bleed. I've mentioned it a few times, and they're working on it, but it's hard when a disagreement between characters turns into my friends not talking to each other. Their characters very often will just leave the group to go to their home, and I've stopped acknowledging as they beg me to let each other kill their characters because the one time I did, they instantly regretted it, and I had to retcon. Man, imagine getting this worked up.
I'm going to kill you and your whole family. Oh, yeah? Well, I'm going to kill you and your entire family. Really? Look, it's not like you have any friends. Oh, that's it. Gentlemen, please. There is no need for violence. We can all find ways to amend our differences. Deep down, we're all the same person. Okay, maybe a bit more literally in this case, but really, we all desire love and kinship, and we don't need to fight like this. And if we do, we can always just choose to walk away. Please, what seems to be the problem? Well, it all started in a Dungeons and Dragons game. Yes, Dungeons and Dragons. I know what Dungeons and Dragons. You guys hate each other this much because of a board game? What did you say? Okay. I'm gonna go.
It's incredibly hard to DM for the group, as all of my prepared adventures seem to be deliberately refuted. I don't want to be a railroady DM, but improv is so exhausting when it's 12:30 a.m. A secret war, a fake kidnapping, Fighters Guild cracking in two. They all see it, know it, but they'll go the other way out of caution. This is my biggest issue, and I'm not sure how to approach my players about it. But still, after all this, the reason I kept running the game for them is because they all get so excited when we play, counting down the hours in our Discord server every week. They love the game exactly how it is. I can only keep it up for so long, though. One day, it's going to be very early in the morning after a long day, and I'll go, rocks fall, everyone dies, if I don't fix this somehow. Any advice? Okay, first and foremost, you gotta deal with the person who's playing Minecraft in the middle of the game. That is not acceptable behavior. Even if they display excitement before the game, clearly there's not a lot of engagement there. That is not good. Another player having a super edgy character is pretty okay, but you need to convey to them like, hey, your character is making it difficult for me to run the game. There's nothing wrong with a bit of edginess, but I need you to engage, because I'm assuming that's the problem. As for the two other players, Yeah, that bleed is rough. They seem too invested, if anything, and that is a problem. I don't know them, so I don't know how to approach that. If they're working on it, that's great, but tell them that the timeline might need to be moved up on that front. This group seem nice, and clearly you have good moments, but don't let the one good moment outweigh the 10 bad moments. We have a tendency to do that sometimes, and it ain't worth it, man. If you can feel yourself burning out, take a break, take a breather, and if it continues, you might want to consider changing up some of the group. This was with a pretty close curated group for my first try in the Dungeon Master chair. This campaign was based on Deltarune? Interesting inspiration, but I like it. Oh, and other indie RPGs I played at the time, as well as Persona 2, wherein groups of monstrous humanoids, furries, sorry y'all, and their token human friend who regularly played Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, discovering a mysterious realm where they took on the abilities of their characters. This overall went great. Each dungeon was based on a player character's issues and developmental arc. However, one of the dungeons was meant to be the culmination of this realm encroaching into the material world, wherein a long-dead dragon spirit brought the realm into a large corporate office building, took many kobold citizens hostage, and even killed a major NPC, though the death didn't stick as they prepared healing spells and potions to bring her back up. So they finally confront this dragon, who is inhabiting the body of essentially a bunny guy cosplaying a certain Final Fantasy XIV villain that people love. I'm sorry, what did I just read?
I must take a form appropriate to slay my enemies.
1 hour later.
Yep, this'll do. The dragon's motivation was to reclaim the planet in the name of his long-lost dragon brethren and use the kobolds he had taken hostage as new hosts for his fellow kin. Everyone was ready, everyone was hyped. I was certainly hyped to try out my red dragon with some homebrew tweaks. It was all ready to go. They punched through his legendary resistances, and the wizard of the party made him dance uncontrollably. He was beaten to death after that by the Hexblade Warlock. A boss I'd built up to for the past 2 weeks was done so easily. Did I make the party too strong? Was the dragon too weak? I have a do whatever, just let me look at it first approach, and never spotted anything crazy in their homebrew. Strong, sure, but I wanted my party to be strong. I wasn't mad though, it was a genuinely fun event. The campaign did die due to scheduling issues and a health incident on my part, but now that I'm all better, I'm playing a new campaign. Maybe something less eccentric, but I've taken a lesson from this. There are some official things that are absolutely bonkers. Watch out for those, or just soft band Vancian casting. So I didn't watch the play-by-play, so I don't know exactly what the problem was, but first and foremost, not every fight needs to be a challenge, though you wanted this one to be a challenge, so I get the frustration. Though remember, it's okay to let your players have that big win. But if you do want to challenge them, first off, you need to give them more encounters than just the single one. Alright, I will give my players a whole dungeon before a major boss fight. Even one extra battle will drain resources and hit points in a big way, making a boss more challenging. Also, add minions into the fight to distract your players from focusing down the boss. Remember legendary actions to keep the momentum of the fight going, and maybe even add arena hazards to give your players more things to think about. I need to make a whole video on challenging combat one of these days. Might be a good one. This story takes place a few months ago, when I was relatively new to Dungeons & Dragons. Second ever campaign I was in because the first one fizzled out. This campaign originally started out with about 10 people, but most of them didn't show up for session 2, so our party was more like 5 people, not including the DM. Good, by the way. We all made our characters, send our backstories over to the Dungeon Master, and our session is off. For context, before I start talking about the events of the campaign, my character was an autognome, which will come into play. Our party had many different species in it, so it wasn't too outlandish. So we all start talking over our usual path, all huddled up on a train. Well, besides my character, I was trapped in the storage car of the train because I suppose autognomes weren't allowed with the other species. I didn't really mind it at first, but found it annoying because I didn't get to meet anybody else on the party. The train immediately explodes due to a raider attack, and we all get flung out. Most other players are fine, except me, who is trapped under the train wreckage, and now I'm near death. I get all of my starting gear stolen by the flirty rogue, and left to die until one of the other party members notices me. This party member in particular only ever wanted to interact with my character at any point during the campaign because they wanted to take my character apart screw by screw to see what was inside. Why are you friends with these people?
So yeah, I know your characters just left me to die horribly in a fire, left me to boil in a giant vat of acid, and you completely abandoned me when a giant monster was going to put my guts out. But despite all of that, I still feel like a very valued member of this team, and I really need you guys all to know that. Yeah, man, that's really great. You know, I'm really glad that you feel like part of the team, but we need your help again. We need a living sacrifice for our blood ritual, so we were hoping you'd volunteer. Yay! Awesome. Right, sweet. We'll get the rope, we'll tie it down. It's gonna be...
We're all eventually dragged onto a ship by the raiders, and I'm locked inside another box again, but still put in the room with everyone else. We all eventually break out of the room and some chaos ensues, but we do lose all of our gear for the second time and are now thrown off the boat. My character is powered by fire, so I am immediately sent into unconsciousness due to this. I get relit once they reach the shore, though only because they want me to be used as a stove to cook fish on. Honestly, the Dungeon Master made this campaign so messy that anything after session 1 or 2, I just can't format in chronological order, so I'll give the highlights. Flirty Rogue screws a vampire and is told to roll to see if he gets pregnant. The player, not the vampire, that is. The player stressed that they did not want to... What's mpreg? Whoa! Oh my god! You guys can be into whatever you're into. But God, I didn't need to know about it. Anyway, the guy was told to make this roll anyway. Luckily, the campaign lasted for such a short time that nobody got to see the outcome of this. My character got dragged behind a horse for 3 days worth of travel. The Dungeon Master attempted multiple party wipes, even though we were only level 3. The Dungeon Master shut down most attempts at roleplay, even though they said it was allowed. I would hope so. This made my character's new friendship with the party healer null and void in the Dungeon Master's eyes, and would tend to give me and the healer dirty looks whenever we would try to even just interact. My character got split up from the party because he found a mountain path and found it to be safer and more similar to what he was used to than the terrain the party was currently on. The party and Dungeon Master were all fine to let me go explore the rocks a little bit. I was almost immediately killed by 3 rounds of enemies, which only stopped because the entire session ended. The Dungeon Master later admitted to wanting to kill my character. The session after that, the Dungeon Master tried to again kill off my character by making him fight a mountain troll. I was still level 3 at the time, so this was a challenge. I was only spared because the Dungeon Master decided the troll wanted to truck me 2 miles in the direction of the party. With 1d6 per 10-foot fallen, how did you not die? Oh, wait, no. It's capped at 20d6. I mean, you'd still probably die, but that's boring. I want to roll 1056 d6 damage. In the final session, the rogue almost got screwed by a god because he rolled high on charisma. The rogue wanted to be healed, not have sex. The Dungeon Master finally wipes the party because we all rolled below an 18 and we get carpet bombed by the government. We were fighting cultists in a dam in a fantasy setting, and the cultists notably did not have any bombs. This was only about 8 to 10 sessions in to the campaign. Again, sorry if this sounds like a rant, I was just very unhappy with the campaign. I'm currently in a much better campaign now with the mentioned party healer being a terrific Dungeon Master, and they have one-shots planned on the side. I only really dislike the Dungeon Master and his attitude towards Dungeons & Dragons. As soon as he party wiped us, he went on to go play some insanely broken homebrew character that had 20 plus out of combat AC at level 3. Can somebody please run the numbers on that, because I have no idea how you'd even do that. Yeah, this Dungeon Master is also not exactly what I would define as the ideal DM. Look, somebody who wants to play a difficult combat, I respect that. That's the play style that I like. But again, as I've said many, many times, difficulty is not meant to be frustrating. And it's not meant to, like, gratify the DM. Of course, as a Dungeon Master, I do love giving my party hard combats to work through, but I particularly love seeing how my party work through them. Yeah, I'll cackle with mad laughter as I slam my party with 20d6 damage on some crazy crap, but I really love seeing how they overcome those odds. That's the point. Further than that, a DM that targets a character to this insane of a degree is a little bit ridiculous. I mean, this poor Autognome has basically been sidelined by the rest of the party and God himself. Just not ideal. Poor little guy. Hey, that's a wrap. If you guys enjoyed, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more of our content, then you can check out our Tabletop Tavern Tips series. You guys have been loving our latest episodes. They're linked in the cards. And while you're there, subscribe to Crispy Tavern to get more of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down in the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment. Don't look that up to let me know you made it to the end of the video. Hey, by the way, if you have your own stories, you can send them directly to us. There's an email down in the description down below. Send your stories our way for a chance to be featured in one of these videos. But hey, even if you don't have any stories, then that's like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.